to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ebro in the Morning, Laura Stiles, Rosenberg, Sam J. on the program. What's happening?
What's good, man?
Thank you for joining us. We've been trying to book you for a minute.
I'm excited.
We kept striking out. You know that, right?
It wasn't striking out.
Fam, you got popping out here fast.
Yeah.
We was trying to book you. They was like,
just scheduling issues. That's all.
Scheduling issues. Yeah, but it was during the HBO show, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I thought you managed to do something that I have tried to do before that is very hard, and that is to try a late night format that's actually different. I thought you guys really did a nice job. For anyone who didn't see Sam's show, it was basically like the backdrop was a party of people actually kind of organically hanging out. Yep. Mixed in with her moving around the world, talking to people a la, I hope
this is the HBO one.
Yeah.
I did see it. Pause?
Yeah, Pause Sam J.
Yeah.
A la Ali G, or, you kind of moving around the world. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Close,
You weren't being a fake, you weren't being a fake person.
Yeah.
You were being you.
I wasn't trying to prank people and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that being active in the world, taking the conversation from the party and bringing it to the world. That's the accurate.
The
piece.
one that really I remember that was really interesting, that at least for me that had never been on my radar before, was the topless chicks, the people who live their life fully tits out. Essentially, that's their life.
What?
Where is that, in Europe?
Can you help explain?
What country is this in? I want to go. It's here in the United States.
Really?
It was about studs who be wearing their titties out. Essentially.
Okay.
When do they do this?
Just whenever playing basketball, going to the store.
But studs.
No, I understand, but still, their boobs are out. But
They're still
nonetheless,
boobs, yeah. But the whole episode wasn't about. But what it was about was self-expression and how we put ourselves in boxes. And I was saying that I always wanted to have my titties out. That would be dope to just have a do-rag on, riding in a car, listening to Wayne, titties out, just rolling. But I'm too shy to do that, and I think about too many of the other consequences. So I talk to some studs who actually do present like that and live like that.
You never actually tried it?
I do at the end of the episode.
Well, I feel too close to you now to bring that.
you didn't want to say you actually saw her topless in a car driving around.
It's cool.
How hard was that hard though?
How nerve-wracking? Yes.
It actually wasn't that bad once it was happening. It was all the nerve-wracking was leading up to it happening, but once it was happening, I was like, this kind of dope. This kind of dope.
So have you done it since?
Nah.
Wasn't that
dope?
Nah, but I will say I'm less worried about my titties. I'm if I'm on, if I'm doing something and someone videos me, I'm like, yo, what up? And if I don't have a shirt on, I'm not all my titties, but I used to be I gotta do stuff first. I don't care.
Right.
They're on TV,
it's a lot of titties
They're
out
on
here.
TV now. Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of titties out. If you really think about it, there's a lot of titties out here.
What do you mean?
And so you shouldn't be ashamed of your
in the
titties.
world.
In the world, there's titties everywhere.
Exactly.
Everybody got, not everybody got them. Well, no, maybe
Everybody has them, just different
everybody
sizes.
does.
That's it.
Everybody does. And it's men get to go with their titties out.
That's right.
Even if they got a little titty to it, like Rick Ross, you know what I'm saying? And it's why can't women just be as free with their shit? You know what I'm saying?
If it makes you feel any better, I don't know if this makes me a great ally. I am also scared to take my shirt off, so I relate.
And
more.
it's because of your titties.
Correct. Well, not even. It's just I don't feel that way necessarily, but I do feel just embarrassed by it. I'm not.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, I'm not one of those dudes who's just loose walking around shirtless whenever I can.
And now Laura Stiles.
Yes.
Titties. Would you be okay with your shirt off, just driving with your titties out?
I don't know, because I've been to European countries where it's oh, you want to hit the nudie beach? I'm maybe I'll pass on that one.
It was kind of fly, bro. You should try it.
I'm sure it's liberating.
It was.
Right? I'm sure. I have to get there. I just have to get there.
Well, listen, keep the listeners posted. I'm sure they want to know.
I mean... ratings.
Yeah, people would like to know.
Well, that's, I think, the problem with the whole titty conversation is what we as men do to the titties. We make it a thing.
Well,
It's our fault.
Right. It was
it really is.
It's our fault.
We come by it honestly. I mean, it's who we are.
What was eye-opening to me was all the stuff I had to do to be able to take my titties out. Legally, we had to go through this whole thing. They was you can't be titties out on this street or this street.
Oh.
We had to be on a certain block. The police had to
That's wild.
block
See, that's
stuff
interesting.
up. And it was
That's wild.
dang, all this just for some titties to come out.
So, no, even more interesting, it just struck me, too, when I said, it's our fault as men. I think about all the women who was mad at Janet Jackson with the whole Super Bowl incident.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that it was like moms with kids at home and the sexualization of the human body, which is like just because a titty come out don't mean it got to be sex.
Right.
But that's a very American thing.
That's
though.
a very, and it is a very American thing.
Because at the same time, women are shamed for whipping out their titties and feeding their children.
Right.
Like it's offensive
It's
if you're
like,
breastfeeding
relax.
your baby.
Yeah.
When it's natural, it's life. You
And
know
if
what
you're
I mean?
like going off over that, like we need to do something about you, not
Right.
the titty.
That's right. It's not the titty's fault. I think that's the movement, actually. It's not the titty's
It's not the titty's
It's
fault.
you.
I was angry.
Not the titty.
I
it's
was
you.
also upset about the Janet Jackson thing.
Why?
Because that was just never how I envisioned seeing Janet's titties for the
With
first
armor
time.
on it? With
Oh, with the shield?
Like I fantasized.
It had a shield on it.
Yo, I'd fantasized for a year since I was 12 years old, and then there was like a weird armor shield, and Justin Timberlake was there, and I'm in a room
Yeah.
with
And you're
strangers.
like, you blame Justin. You were like, yo, you fucked up Janet's
Yo,
titty.
what's going on?
It wasn't
wasn't
the presentation we wanted.
You understand? It wasn't what I was waiting for. So Sam, now you're a big time Hollywood actor too. You went from host to now you're in a big time Hollywood movie tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pretty
yeah,
tight.
Yeah.
You
Well, no,
people-
you people's out.
You people's out.
It's out already.
In selected theaters.
select theaters.
And
Got
then
it.
it's gonna be out on Netflix tomorrow.
Yeah, so this weekend you can watch it at home.
All right. We just had Kenya Barris on. We talked to him extensively about the
Yeah.
show and racial dynamics in the movie, et cetera, et cetera. What role do you play in the movie?
I play Mo, was Ezra's best friend.
Okay.
Jonah Hill's character.
Got it.
How
So
was
he
it?
got black friends.
He got a black friend.
A black friend.
Which happens to be the BFF.
Got it.
Yeah, and business partner.
That's a pretty big role. How was that experience? How was Jonah? How was the whole thing?
Jonah was mad cool. I was surprised, not because I thought he was gonna be not cool, but he was so cool. You know what I mean? I was like, he's gonna come and do his job and then probably go to his trailer and that's that. But we would hang out a lot in between takes and we would hang out a lot during setups and
Y'all
just
was smoking
talk.
weed?
Nah, Jonah doesn't smoke weed.
He don't smoke weed. He
No.
definitely looks like a weed smoker.
I don't know why people keep thinking that. No,
Definitely.
Jonah doesn't smoke weed.
Wow.
Nah, Jonah's sober. He just be chilling.
I love that.
So, but we would just chat a lot, man, and we would just have a lot of conversations about real life stuff. Like, I talked to him about like getting into fame and like things that have been changing in my life and just like regular stuff. And it made it really easy to have like a friendly rapport on camera because we were really talking about things off camera.
Right.
He's a big hip hop head too, right?
Yeah.
Are you, how big a hip hop head are you?
It's
I'm
aight.
like,
Keep it real. You be like, hip hop's aight. You know what
nah, it's not I'm a pretty big hip hop head. I'm a pretty big hip hop head.
What kind of question is that, Rosenberg? I don't even
know,
understand what that
because
question
I
means.
took for granted-
In 2023,
Yeah, that's
what
what I
does
mean.
that even mean? What kind of hip hop?
I
head are you?
casually listen to music, or like Jonah, I know is like a rap nerd to some degree. Like he finds ways to reference Wu-Tang. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's all I mean.
Got
is
it.
that like he's into it? I know.
Right.
I didn't know if you go deep like that or. you just
It,
can't.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the, you know what I'm saying?
What do you listen to these days?
What am I listening to now? I'm listening to the new Nas.
See, that's all you gotta say.
It's hard.
That's why she was. The question was weird.
Sorry,
Rosenberg.
so I don't think it was that
what
weird.
kind of hip hop head are
That
you?
Joey Badass
What does that mean?
2000 is
What?
fire.
Look at this. Look at this.
That's why I asked though.
Look
Because
at this.
there are a lot of people who go, I like hip hop, but they don't listen to the new Joey Badass album.
It's hard. It's fire.
Yeah, he did his thing,
It's
man.
really good.
It's really good.
So
You were sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
it's okay. No, so I remember when we were talking to Kenya, he did mention that nobody auditioned for any of the roles. That
Yeah.
everyone was already picked. So did you just got the call from Kenya and tell me, were you excited for that specific role, or were you moved around, or how did it work?
Nah, he called me for that role,
Okay.
and he was like, "Hey, I got this movie, and I think you could do the role. Like, if you're interested, I'll send you over some pages. Like, whatever. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I didn't know anything past he has a movie or whatever. So he sent me the pages, but he didn't like send it with like who's who, just the characters or whatever. So I was reading it and I was like, oh man, this character is like really close to who I am as a person in a lot of ways. And I was like, yeah, man, I feel like I could do it. And he was like, yo, cool, so if you want to do it, we could do it. And I was like, all right, man, but if I have to audition, I don't know, because I'm really bad at auditioning, because I am. And he was like, nah, I'm not asking you to audition unless you want to do it. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And then he was
Did
like,
you
all
know
right.
Kenya at the time?
I didn't really know Ken like that. Like, we had talked on Instagram and stuff. He told me, like, he liked the special, and he liked 3 a.m. And then I was like, all right, man. And then he was like, all right, cool. It's you, Jonah Hill, Eddie Murphy. He just started naming all these names. And I was like, oh,
Yo,
shit.
he was like, hold up.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. What? So then I was nervous. And I was like, oh, no, this is like an actual thing that's happening. And then a part of me didn't believe it. I was like, there's no way I'm just going to get this movie without having an audition or anything after he told me the names. And then my manager called like, hey, we got an offer for this movie. And I was like, all right, cool.
Wow.
Did you get time with Eddie?
I got a scene with Eddie in the movie.
Wow.
What was that for? I mean, as a comedian and a writer,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, wow.
Crazy because one is like the whole movie, I'm like acting like I don't like Eddie's character because he's ruining our good time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the one scene I have with him is the scene where I'm like, I want this guy to get away from me. And it's like inside, I'm like, please stay. You know what I mean? Like it's Eddie Murphy.
Right.
So it was cool. I got my one little joke off. You know what I'm saying? I was happy about that.
you got to ad-lib it?
I got to ad lib it. Eddie liked it. It got to stay.
You made Eddie Murphy laugh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It got to stay, so I was like, we good. That's the
What's his demeanor like when working with him?
It's not like he's serious. I mean, he's just Eddie. He knows what he is. He knows who he is. He knows that he walks in and the room changes. Like, he's aware of himself. So it's just like, that's what the aura is like. It's like
It's
a
Eddie Murphy.
nigga who know he's that dude.
But a nice guy. and a
Yeah,
nice,
that's what I'm saying. It's not mean or it's standoffish. It's just like very aware of what his presence does to people.
Right. You are a writer also.
Yes.
And now, was it stand-up first? Right? Like, you know, because the writing, like when I meet someone, they're like, I'm a writer for SNL.
Yeah.
How did that even happen? And
That was my first writing job. My life is weird like that. That was my first writing job. That was the first time I ever like wrote for a show or anything that wasn't myself.
SNL.
Yeah.
But how do you land something like that? It's my first time.
I did a comedy festival called Just for Laughs in Montreal, which is
Big
like
one.
the big one. It's like the one you want to
So
get into.
you was already doing stand-up.
I was already doing stand-up, and they saw me at Just for Laughs, and there was some SNL scouts there, and they was like, yo, we want you to come audition, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right.
Did you tell them I don't do good at auditions just like you told Kid?
Well, this was like, just go do stand-up
Got
in a
it.
joint. So I wasn't worried about that. But I was kind of like SNL, because it was never on my radar of things to do. Like, I just didn't think I fit in that world. You know what I mean? Like, not that I didn't like the show or respect the show, but the type of comic I was at the time and stuff, I was just like, me and the show don't match. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll audition, because I don't, you know, I made a choice in my career to just not say no to stuff.
Good, that's a good
that
choice.
things that, you know, just
Opportunities.
because I'm not used to it, or I don't think this, like, if it comes to me, I'm gonna be open to it, just type of vibe. So I was like, cool. I auditioned, and they was in LA, and they was like, all right, we're gonna fly you to New York to audition for Lorne and everything at 8H. Then I went, I did that, and they was like, oh, good job. I was like, I feel good about it. Then they called me, and they was like, hey, so we want you to write for the show. So I was like, damn, I'm ugly. They don't want to put me on TV. Cool. But I was also like, whatever, it's all good. Like, I never wrote for a show before, and there's probably mad stuff to learn there. And then it was also like, I get to live in New York and like make money. And as a comic, you kind of want to get to New York and do stand-up in New York. And it was like, oh, so now I get to do stand-up in New York and not be poor. Dope. And then I just came to New York and started writing for the show.
How long did you do it?
3 seasons.
Which seasons were they? Like, how many years ago?
Like 3 years ago, I love.
Okay, 3 years ago. That's pretty amazing. I mean, the cast has been pretty amazing that whole time.
Yeah, so it was like 80 Bryant, Kate was there, Cecily was there, Kyle was there, Beck was there, Alex Moffat was there. Ego came the next year. Me and Heidi came together. Me and Chris came together. And, of course, Keenan was there.
Of course, Keenan's always there.
Yeah, and yeah, it was fun.
How did those connections help you today, right? Because those are big connections that you was able to make.
The connections are the connections, and I think like that shit just grows organically. You know, like someone's making something, they think about you or whatever. I feel like what helped me the most was like the education. Is everything I learned being on that show and working at that show every week and putting on a live show every week. I don't think I would have been able to make Pause without being on that show and had the confidence to make pause and go like, we could do it like this. You know, that's just from making television. I have an idea of like what you can fuck with and what you can change and alter about it. So, you know, for me, it was just what I learned. It's like going to Harvard for comedy. It's like you just leave with such a vast knowledge of making TV and making comedic television.
And all your classmates are friggin' brilliant also.
yeah.
Everyone around you, that's amazing.
So as you sit here today, you're in this movie. Is this your first movie? Mm-hmm. First movie.
That's why I said my life is weird.
Well, then you got 2 TV shows. Right? And you've already done a comedy special.
Yeah.
And you've written at SNL.
Yeah.
So these are very kind of different disciplines, right? Each one. So as you look at your, like you said, my career is, did you say
weird.
Weird? Like, how do you, like, what's the priority? Is it getting on that stage and being able to do stand-up and everything else kind of falls after that? Are you trying to write more TV?
I'm trying to do everything in a little bit of a way. You know what I mean? Like, I think when I was younger and I came into this business, I was very like, all I do is stand up, and I'm a stand up, and I would take like generals, and they would be like, "Do you want to write a show?" And I'd be like, "No," you know, like I am a stand up. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times, especially you come from like the hood or whatever, you be really focused on like you got to be one thing. It's like this whole like it's like that basketball kid mentality. Like all I got is this ball, and that's what's gonna change my life. And you're kind of super focused on like this one thing is gonna get me out of here. And once you really start doing stuff, like the scope of what's possible just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. So now I look at my career more as this like big overarching thing where all these things are possible. And it's like, I just want to keep creating. That's it. I just want to be in situations where I get to be creative.
And I'm sure in some regard, be yourself. Be the purest form and the truest form of yourself.
Yes, 100%.
Right? When you go back to, because I'm always amazed by comedians, right? Because we interview a lot of them. When they come in, like there's a certain almost apprehension to sitting in this room with us. And I'm like, but you get on stage in front of motherfuckers and they might boo you. Like, comedians are some of the bravest performers I think there is, right? Like,
yeah, or not even boo, maybe just stare in silence.
Yeah.
Right, even worse, right? They don't feel no type of way. So how did you, how did stand-up find you, or you decide to do stand-up?
I always kind of wanted to do it. Like, it was always something just hanging around in the back of my head. Like, that would be cool. If you could do that, that would be cool. But I think earlier in my life, I just didn't have, like, the confidence, really. And I also didn't have, like, the knowledge of self at all. Like, I was just young, and I was still dating dudes. You know what I mean? Like, I was just figuring out me in a million ways. So I kind of, like, tried it, and I was like, that just don't feel right. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't feel correct to me. I was like, the connection I thought I was gonna feel or whatever was supposed to come from this, I'm not getting that. So I went off and did a bunch of other crap and worked a bunch of stupid jobs and stuff, and was turning like 29, and I was just kind of like, damn, bro, like your life's kind of at a dead end. Nothing that you see in front of you is like anything you want to be doing. Like,
where were you?
I was in Atlanta. And my family was trying to get me to come back to Boston. I had gotten a little sick, and they were like, yo, you need to come home and just heal and get better. And my aunt was trying to get me to work for the MBTA, and like because she'd been working there forever, and she was like, they're about to start hiring bus drivers again. I'm like, I'm not trying to be no fucking bus driver. Like,
and they pay a great retirement plan.
I was like, I know, but it was just like
a lot of wear and tear on your life, but
yeah, I was like, is
no
this
passion.
the thing? Is this gonna be the thing? I just didn't have passion for it, and like, I mean, I'm not to say I've seen people drive the bus for years and be happy as hell. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's just what works for you. But I knew I didn't have a passion for it or anything, and I was like, I don't want to like just live a passionless life. Like, I don't want to just be going to work to go to work to live, and like I just didn't want to be doing that. And I just was like, yo, man, you got to do something. And I was at my cousin's house, and I was just making a bunch of people laugh, and I didn't know them. And I was like, yo, this is when you're like the happiest. Is when you're just talking shit, making people laugh, challenging ideas. And I was like, man, you just need to try it. And I just told myself, put my head down for a year and do it. And I was like, if you're further along than you were when you started, then put your head down for another year. Like, what do you really have to lose? You wasted years doing less.
Trying to figure it out,
yeah.
too. Yeah.
I've wasted years doing way less.
So where were you after 1 year?
I was able to, like, get up in Boston and like I could go to rooms and people would be like, Sam's here. You know what I mean? And I was like,
that's great. That's great.
And I was like, oh, that's fire. You know
I'll do another year. I'll try another year.
yeah, you know.
That's dope. Good
That's
for
an
you, man.
amazing story.
Congrats.
Wow, from
Thank you.
29 and just that time, all this has happened.
Yeah. That's the like real whatever testimony or whatever is like you really could just make a decision and change your life. You
Well,
know
listen,
what I mean?
God finds a way of keeping us humble, and that's why
Yeah.
you were stuck outside with Peter Rosenberg
I
last
was.
night.
That's like
Regular person.
in the rain.
Y'all was
bro.
standing in the rain, bro.
We're standing in the rain.
In the
was
rain,
missy.
bro.
It was bad. It was bad out there. That's so cool, though. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming by the program, too.
Man, thank you for having me.
You have an
Yeah,
invite.
please.
Whenever you want to come through to promote something, you let us
Yo,
know.
and you know what we do for a living?
What?
Sit around and talk shit.
And challenge ideas.
That's the fun
That's
part.
the
Isn't that
whole
the most
shit.
fun thing?
So yeah, even if you don't want to come in and do an interview, you just want to sit around and
Hey,
challenge
come argue?
ideas and
Yeah,
talk.
I'll
Yes.
definitely just
What's your
come.
favorite thing to argue about right now?
Ooh, I mean, race is always fun.
That's what we
That's
do.
what we do professionally.
Race is a good time always. I don't know.
Literally, he only has a job here because he's Jewish and white.
Right. That's
Literally,
it. Just
that's
to
it.
create conflict.
Just so I could go at white people and somebody's here to
Basketball
represent for
is
them.
fun.
Wow, so you just openly call me a token.
That's right.
Like, you don't really get that every day. It's not often people say it. They just think it.
Sam
I don't
J.
think you're a token, bro.
Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome, bro.
Nah,
appreciate you.
he is.
Congratulations,
Yo, give it up, Sam
Sam.
J. Go check You
Yes.
People on Netflix. Come back anytime.
Thank you, bro.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sam.